The millionaire's son was losing weight every day. Until the black cleaner performed a miracle. "If I don't speak up now, this baby won't make it to Friday alive." That's what Ruth Thompson whispered to herself, clutching the cleaning cloth between her trembling fingers, when she realized that the millionaire's 8-month-old son was wasting away like a plant without water, and that his new girlfriend wouldn't let anyone near the crib for more than 2 minutes. Little William had lost almost 2 pounds in 3 weeks. His mother had died in a car accident when he was only 4 months old, and his father, Robert Sterling, owner of a chain of luxury hotels, had shown up with Victoria less than 6 weeks later, an international model who looked like she had stepped straight out of a fashion magazine. The baby cried weakly, his cheeks sunken, his arms thin as sticks. "Special imported formula," Victoria always explained, but it smelled like a lie to Ruth. And when the 45-year-old cleaning lady caught Jake, the private driver, hiding an unlabeled bottle behind the laundry cleaning products, she realized that the situation was much more sinister than she had imagined. She just didn't know yet that the plan also included eliminating any inconvenient witnesses. Ruth Thompson had been cleaning that mansion for 12 years. She started when she was still married, before her ex-husband left her and their 2 children for a younger woman. She knew every corner of that house, every routine, every poorly kept secret. She was the type who went unnoticed but observed everything, especially when something didn't add up. Every time Robert traveled for business meetings, Victoria would lock the baby's room and dismiss the official nanny. "I need some time alone with my stepson," she would say with that rehearsed smile. But Ruth noticed that Victoria would leave the room only 5 minutes later, leaving William alone for hours. The crying echoed through the hallways, but when Robert returned, he found everything in perfect order and Victoria playing the role of the devoted stepmother. It was while changing the trash in the room that Ruth found 3 bottles with traces of extremely diluted, almost transparent milk. "What kind of mother does that to a child?" she thought, instinctively putting one of the bottles in a plastic bag. In the mansion's garden, there were parties every week, champagne and loud laughter, but on the second floor, there was a heavy silence that made your blood run cold. Robert Sterling wasn't evil. He was a man devastated by grief and drowning in work. He lived in meetings signing million-dollar contracts, came home exhausted, trying to balance the role of grieving father with that of businessman of an empire that kept growing. Victoria, angel in appearance and demon in behavior, controlled everything related to the baby. Feeding schedules, doctor's visits, caregivers. Jake, the driver, was always whispering to her in dark corners, exchanging knowing glances and typing messages on his cell phone as if planning something. Ruth watched, took mental notes, and swallowed her anger. One night, when the baby regurgitated a gray liquid with a strange smell, she couldn't take it anymore. She picked up the bottle, smelled it, and knew right away, something was very wrong there. What if I told you that it wasn't just the milk that was being tampered with? That night, the mansion was buzzing with a dinner party for international investors. Photographers' flashes, waiters serving expensive cocktails, Victoria parading like a queen in her designer dress. Jake circulated around the party like a faithful shadow, always close by when she needed something. On the second floor, without adequate ventilation, William cried in a hoarse voice that broke her heart. Ruth sneaked upstairs, picked up the boy, and felt his fragile little body trembling. She went down to the kitchen, prepared a formula suitable for his age, without any strange mixtures, and gave him small sips. The boy grabbed the bottle as if it were the last thing in the world, his little eyes shining with relief. On the television in the living room, guests praised Victoria as an example of a modern woman who dedicates her life to her orphaned stepson. In the bedroom, reality bit deep. Ruth discreetly photographed the prepared bottles and the suspicious jar that Jake had left open on the counter. It was time to find out what was really going on in that house. The next morning, Ruth made a decision that would change everything. Either I save this child or I die trying. She asked for an hour off to get her blood pressure medicine, and ran to the health clinic where her cousin worked as a lab technician. She couldn't do a complete exam, but it was enough to hear a sentence that exploded in her chest like a bomb. This milk is too diluted and has traces of infant sedative. Ruth returned to the mansion with her heart pounding and the certainty that she was dealing with something monstrous. At the gate, Jake looked at her with his usual fake smile. "You took a while today, huh?" She responded with courage she didn't know she had. "I went to pray for the health of everyone in this house." He laughed, but his eyes betrayed his nervousness. And when cowards get nervous, the plan accelerates. Robert announced that he would be traveling that same afternoon to sign a contract in Miami. Victoria feigned sadness, kissed the baby for exactly 2 minutes in front of his father, and then handed him over to a substitute nanny who came recommended by a highly reputable agency. Ruth immediately noticed that the new nanny didn't even know how to hold a child properly. "She just arrived today, she's temporary," Victoria explained hurriedly. "Temporary, my foot." Ruth saw Jake through the window cleaning the car with excessive zeal, and in the open glove compartment, a stack of brown envelopes and a cheap roadside motel keychain. What Millionaire's driver carries souvenirs from a sleazy motel? Only someone whose head is elsewhere. And that elsewhere had a first and last name, Victoria Walsh. At night, with the house as quiet as a graveyard, Ruth made the discovery that would change everything. Victoria and Jake locked themselves in the private office. Low laughter, expensive perfume mixed with the smell of cheap cigarettes. Ruth pressed her ear against the door and heard every word that chilled her blood. "Not long now, love. When the will comes out and no one contests it, we'll be free. Tomorrow night, final dose to end this once and for all." If you're following this story and feeling your heart race like mine did when I discovered the truth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to find out in the next few minutes about Victoria's diabolical plan will take your breath away. Ruth spent the whole night awake, going over every word she had heard. Final dose to end this once and for all. The phrase echoed in her head like an ambulance siren. She knew that tone. She had heard something similar 15 years ago, when her ex-husband was planning to abandon the family. The difference was that now it wasn't about a broken heart, but the life or death of an innocent child. The next morning, Ruth arrived at the mansion 2 hours earlier than usual. She needed to understand their schedule, map out their every move. Victoria came down for breakfast wearing a silk robe that cost more than Ruth's monthly salary, her hair perfectly styled even though she had just woken up. Jake was already in the kitchen, drinking coffee as if he were part of the family. "Good morning, Ruth," Victoria said with that fake smile that fooled no one. "Today you can focus on the first floor only. The baby is a little restless, so I'd rather no one go upstairs." Ruth nodded silently, but inside she was boiling. Restless? The boy was being slowly murdered, and the witch still had the nerve to make up excuses. As she wiped the living room table, she heard Jake whispering on the phone, "Yes, tonight. I already spoke to the doctor. She'll sign the death certificate without any problems. Sudden infant death syndrome, very common in premature babies." The cloth slipped from Ruth's hands. William wasn't premature. She remembered perfectly well when he was born, at full term. They had even bribed a doctor to forge the cause of death. Her stomach churned, but she managed to keep her composure. That's what 12 years of cleaning rich people's houses taught her. to be invisible even when your world is falling apart. Victoria approached the window and made a phone call. "Honey, I need to cancel lunch today. A delicate family situation, you understand." Pause. "Yes, very sad. Babies are so fragile." The syrupy tone made Ruth clench her fists until her nails dug into her palms. During the afternoon, Robert called from Miami Airport. Victoria answered on speakerphone, playing the perfect concerned stepmother. "Honey, William slept all day today. I think he's finally getting used to the new routine." Robert, on the other end, sounded relieved. "That's good, Vic. You're an angel in this boy's life. I'll be back early tomorrow." An angel. Ruth almost choked on her own saliva. If Robert knew that his angel was planning to kill his only remaining son, he would probably have a heart attack in the middle of the airport. At 3 p.m., Victoria left to get her nails done, in reality, to meet Jake somewhere away from prying eyes. She left Ruth alone with a substitute nanny, a nervous woman who could barely look anyone in the eye. It was the perfect opportunity. Ruth crept upstairs and found William awake in his crib, staring at the ceiling with those heartbreaking tired eyes. She picked him up and felt how much thinner he was than the day before. His ribs stood out under his pale skin, his little arms as thin as dry twigs. "Nothing will happen to you, no," she whispered, rocking him gently. "Aunt Ruth won't let it." That was when she found, hidden behind the dresser, a small bottle with a clear liquid and a medical label that made her blood run cold. Chlorpromazine, restricted use, only under strict medical prescription. Ruth photographed everything with trembling hands. She wasn't a doctor, but she knew that psychiatric medication was not something to be given to a baby. The sound of the front door made her run back to the first floor. Victoria had returned early, and from the tone of her voice on the phone, something had changed in the plans. "No, you idiot, it can't be tomorrow." Her husband came back earlier than expected. Pause. "Then today. Better that way, less suspicious." Another pause. "The cleaning lady? What cleaning lady?" "She's practically part of the furniture, Jake. She's been cleaning this house for 12 years and has never said a word. She's perfect to be our innocent witness." Ruth felt her blood run cold. Innocent witness. They wanted her to witness the baby's death, so she could confirm that it was natural causes. They wanted her to sign off on their version, to validate their lie. They were using her own social invisibility against her. But Victoria